Waking up fevered in a foreign country, the bedclothes soaked, my throat parched as a barren field, swatches of dreams float past. Like how I slinked behind an uncle at the Sunday table to sip Coca-Cola from his glass, too timid to ask my grandmother for my own. The sound of my voice croaking Invictus to great aunts nodding on the couch had me willing my 9-year body to vanish like smoke. Back from Japan, my mother made me pick between 2 faux silk robes. I coveted the jade with cherry blossoms, but convinced myself it looked better on my sister's fairer skin. Do certain trees feel less or more entitled to their patch of dirt and air? Do we ever outgrow childhood? And do scapulars really save, like the two-faced medallion wedged into the sidewalk, Christ's bleeding heart on one side, Immaculate Mary on the other? In a dark alley, my friend Melissa clutched hers while praying, Mother Mary, may those who see me be reminded, and the man with a knife left her. Lying in half-light, an iron vise clamping my gut, even my hand is unfamiliar, and everyone I know has gone fishing. I can pretend to believe almost anything, even the efficacy of a pendant embedded in my neck. I try to pray, but all that comes is a string of Spanish memorized on the train and the first lines of Padre Nuestro. Repeat what you know, a teacher once said, and the rest will follow. I intone it like a mantra, hágase tu voluntad, thy will be done. But all that returns is the sea's roar, like drowned names of towns we crossed in the night. So the next poem has a French title, and I don't speak French, so pardon my French. It's a phrase that describes that time of day between afternoon and evening when it's dark. It's just dark enough so you can't tell the difference between a dog and a wolf. So it's literally entre chien et loup, which is between dog and wolf. Entre chien et loup. More than tearing open the cream envelope or hearing the shush of linen paper between eager fingers, more than the rush of ink-spattered words, there's the waiting, or so romantics tell us. That expansive breath held as if underwater for what seems forever, each cell filled to bursting with oxygen for a lover's letter to arrive. Like that cold January dreaming of your first kiss, lips parted, half asleep in class, or practicing scales on the piano, something inside ripens to almost breaking. Anyone observing how magnolia buds flush before they speak in white flame will recognize the wish to linger in airports or train stations, prolonging that final glimpse, or the urge to pause on a bridge, watching dusk's vacillations. Entre chien et loup, the French say, implying that all we know of heaven is the eyelash between night and day, between dog and wolf. So I grew up in the Philippines, where there are a lot of strange fruit and berries that you don't normally see here. And this is triggered by the memory of a fruit called aratiles. It's a wild berry that grows there that I haven't tasted in decades, and the memory of it haunts me. So I wrote this poem. It's sideways in the book, so I'm reading it like this. Aratiles. It's kind of like your iPhone when you want the landscape or something. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Interactive. Aratiles. Little red moons, fragrant marbles pocketed, softening against my skin. In the sharp grass behind my grandmother's house, neighbor boys waited to grab the rubies from my skirt. Thrives in poor soil, not to be found in markets. Children thieve the berries from low-growing trees in backyards or sidewalks, leave nothing to the birds. In English, Jamaican cherry, Panama berry. In Malaysian, cherry kampung, meaning village cherry. In Spanish, cacaniqua, Balaina yamanaza, higuito, memizo, capulin. How names mean nothing until you've rolled them on your tongue, burst the juicy pulp against your palate. Once in Mexico, I glimpsed a basketful from the window of a taxi. Aratiles. You can't say it without hearing rain on the roof of your mouth, rain rattling the panes of an empty house. On a boardwalk, a whiff of cotton candy on salt air brings back the grit of 100 yellow seeds. So my parents still live in the Philippines, where I grew up, and needless to say, there have been a lot of departures and arrivals between us. My mother is currently in the later stages of dementia, which is really sad. It's a horrible disease, as I'm sure you know. So the departures have been getting harder between us, and I wrote this about her and about her superstition that when things go wrong before a trip, it's actually good. It's like, you know, the car broke down. Yes, that means your plane won't crash. You know, that's what So this is called Lucky. My mother looks for signs on the morning of my departure. Everything means something else, she assures me when I topple a juice glass, calling it good fortune when crystal shatters. When I lose the coral earrings she gave me, she blesses heaven. Better that than your life. So when she hears the flight's been delayed, burnt fuse, she's exultant, convinced the gods have foiled some evil design on my safety. It delights her when I call her from the gate to say I've spilled coffee on my favorite sweater, and yes, the weather in Denver is fine. Mother of contradictions, believer in signs and angels, for you I'd stoop for the wayward pin, avoid each sidewalk crack, comb a field of wild clover, to find you a balm for letting go. So I'm sure you've all heard that good artists steal and great artists, no wait, it's good artists borrow and great artists steal, right? I'm not sure if this is borrowed or stolen, but I used 3 lines from the Brazilian poet Carlos Drummond de Andrade in this poem. It's called Song of the Sea, with 3 lines from Carlos Drummond de Andrade, and I will use this signal to indicate those lines. We have a librarian here, so I don't want to be accused of plagiarism. Why does the sea seem deeper, the deep seem wilder this morning? Next to it, life is a static sun without warmth or light. Our backs, not bent over desks, uncoil. Lungs fill with air. Freed from leather, our feet leave disappearing shapes on the wave's swept bed. Friendships, birthdays, personal matters don't count. Everything is relative, says my uncle, lying half blind on his sickbed near a window so he can hear the ocean. The breeze carries salt and decaying fish. Unable to eat, he sips lemongrass tea, dreams of garlic rice. Don't sing about your city, leave it in peace, he says, then asks to hear calypso. So I once heard the great Irish poet Seamus Heaney say that in poetry, small things can bear the weight of anything. And I've thought about that a lot over the years, how poetry is one of those things that is like a cup that can hold even the vastest and the most expansive ideas, whether it's love or sorrow or grief or restlessness or yearning. It holds everything. And so this is one attempt to do that. It's a short poem and it's called Soap. Years later, my father would tell her that while she was away visiting family overseas, the slowly shrinking soap became a sacrament of his loneliness, and how, when he bathed on the eve of my mother's return, the bar had thinned to a petal on the lip of the tub. So, speaking of Brazil again, the next poem is a ghazal in which every other line ends in the word Brazil. It's called Missing. Like carnival screams, the 2 o'clock train rends the blue night in half since you've gone to Brazil. Minas Gerais, Maranhão, Curitiba, Contagem, my litany of sorrows since you've gone to Brazil. The grass is a woman's unpinned hair, Bom dia, cry the zinhas, since you've gone to Brazil. The dishwasher rattles, the neighbors complain, the radio stammers like Amazon rain since you've gone to Brazil. Could sonnets from the Portuguese cool this burning on my tongue since you've gone to Brazil? Squirrels nest in the lilac where your hedger hasn't sputtered since you've gone to Brazil. I've baked enough bread to scatter to the crows. I've knit you an ocean since you've gone to Brazil. So I have two more poems. Second to the last one is a list poem. When you're a writer and also a mother, you write wherever and whenever you can, and I've been known to find beginning and ending lines of poems at many a stoplight. Luckily, there are several in Chicago. But in this poem, actually, all the material was gleaned from being in the car, driving my boys around. So this is called Things I Learned from My Sons While Driving Them Home from School. 1. There's a religion in Vietnam that worships Charlie Chaplin and Victor Hugo. 2. Long Island has 4 McDonald's restaurants per square mile. 3. Mrs. Morris, the English teacher, swears. 4. In Dubai, there is a group of islands arranged in the shape of a palm tree. 5. If you stand in the schoolyard at recess playing the Rocky theme on a kazoo, you could earn $1.27 in a refrigerator magnet. 6. All girls look better with bangs, and makeup is the most disgusting invention ever. 7. You can't fold a paper in half more than 8 times. 8. On the Baskin-Robbins logo, a pink 31 for 31 flavors is hidden in the BR. 9. A boy in the 7th grade breeds guppies in his locker and sells them in water bottles. 10. Imagine a ball of solid steel the size of the earth. A bird flies by and brushes its wing on the ball's surface once a year. When the entire ball has eroded, eternity is just beginning. I'd like to end with a poem that's not in the book. It's fairly recent, and it was triggered by just seeing this bird in my backyard that every spring would pull floss from this hammock that was unraveling and taking it up to its nest. And it's happened for the past four or five springs that I've spent in Chicago. So little did we know we were supplying building materials for the birds in our backyard. So this is called Feather. The almost neon sheen of moss spreading like a stain on the ash tree's grooved bark. The hammock's frayed rope, to which goldfinches return each June, needling, trailing silk to their nests. But mostly the quiet of a neighbor's house, white drapes billowing. Bring back those summer silences I moved in as a child, a shadow slinking through empty rooms. Dust motes tunneled light above the cold floor, where belly down I sprawled, goose feather in hand. If I lay there long enough, if I brushed the feather on a fixed spot on the pebble-washed floor, how long before I'd make a dent? The point is not that when night fell, there was barely a scratch. The point is how, armed with a feather, I believed I could make a mark. Thank you.